As I already told you, I met with Deborah Fletcher, Stacey Perry, and reviewed the timeline for shooting the 5 to 7 minute videos. And we decided on the list of potential questions. And then I also met with our videographer and explained to him those questions. And I wanted to tell you a little bit more about what questions I came up with to share with Jason Cheng and with the rest of the team. Those were what kind of decisions do you make? And again, these questions are directed to senior leadership. How does your job fit within the organization and industry? What is your major contribution to your profession? Are there opportunities to continue to learn in your job? If so, how? What expertise have you developed? What are your main responsibilities as a blank? What is a typical day and or week like for you? What do you like most or least about your work? And how does what you do daily support Stanley Martin's strategic plan? What metrics do you track on a regular basis? How do you use the information to adjust your approach? How would you describe your team culture? What kinds of problems do you deal with? How do most people enter the type of work that you do, and how did you get to where you are? How long have you been in this industry, and how would you describe the industry? I think one of my leadership challenges will lie in adequately preparing the senior leaders for their interviews. The other challenge will be to convince others that using the organizational chart as a compass, we can bring the strategic plan to life. I'll need to demonstrate emotional intelligence and also that I can persuade others to overcome these challenges. And those are really the top two leadership challenges that I'm going to focus on for the duration, and that I did focus on for the duration of the project. I know I mentioned before that I also would focus on the fact that the team is diverse and that can create conflict. So I think that the diversity of the team and the conflict created from that diversity can be counterbalanced with that emotional intelligence and persuasiveness that I am challenging myself to bring to the project. Goleman, 2004, believes that emotional intelligence is a cornerstone of being a leader. And one component of emotional intelligence is self awareness. It's not unlike a muscle. Self awareness can be strengthened through persistence, practice, and feedback. Knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, though, can be at the expense of your own happiness as a leader. So I may be unhappy as I exercise this muscle of self awareness, and I need to deal with that. There are various ways to build your emotional intelligence that I could mention, but Togel and Barsu suggest going into coaching mode, which is one action that I've taken. That means incorporating asking open ended questions instead of offering to give advice on how to perform someone's job. I'll be doing this when I'm preparing senior leaders on the team and trying to convince the rest of my team members to use the org chart as a compass. There may also be a point at which self awareness can be too much, so to speak, and can cause a hyper focus on your limitations versus your strengths. Marshall, 2005, mentions that one way to limit self doubt is to be aware of it as your inner critic. For example, during a difficult performance evaluation conversation or during a tense conversation in general, just like the ones that I'll be having when it comes to this project, I might coach myself to choose to see the performance data regarding my areas of improvement from the vantage point of learning and development rather than from the perspective that I'm simply not good enough. Persuading others to see it my way can and will be challenging as well. Grant, 2021, suggests using tactics that play to someone's strengths to persuade them. For example, if you're talking to someone who acts like a know-it-all, ask them to explain how something works to you. If someone's really stubborn, let them take control of the project. If the person you're speaking to is really full of themselves, you can find ways to praise them. And lastly, if someone tends to disagree a lot, disagree with them. So as you can see, kind of counterbalancing the personality characteristics or strengths that someone has with this the tactics that you take on is helpful in trying to persuade them. But you need to be aware of who you're talking to and whether they are a know-it-all, whether they are very stubborn, if they're full of themselves, if they tend to disagree a lot. Once you notice that, you can take the appropriate action. The org chart that I intend to use lays out our departments and divisions. Our departments are based on our corporate support functions, and those are accounting and finance, IT, the chief operating officer kind of department, then team and culture and architecture. Our divisions are purchasing, land, construction, sales, and warranty. Despite my use of emotional intelligence and persuasiveness, I don't think my efforts were very effective, and the project is right now at a standstill.